Wes Maxey here via phone with Stephen Bowles. Welcome back, Stephen.
It's good to be back, ready to do a little week 4 recap on the events that happened this Sunday and, Monday.
Oh, definitely. Lots to talk about, too. We'll kick it off with last week's predictions. I went 4-1, and you went at gentleman's 3-2.
Yeah.
Big difference there, the Shotgun and Doug matchup. I called it. What can you do?
That's true. Shotgun finally pulled out win 1 of the year. Doug kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say flat, but I think really Shotgun took the win more than Doug lost.
Yeah, I agree with you a lot. We really hounded on Shotgun, and I think that really gave him that motivation to get out there and actually put a starting lineup on the field. So he used some new players, and we'll get into that. Actually, let's jump into that right now. Let's talk about some key pickups, both good and bad. We'll start with the bad. What do you say?
All right. This is something new for us. We're going to do a little thing called What Were You Thinking? And this week, my What Were You Thinking belongs to Chase for starting Daniel Thomas over Willis McGahee.
Questionable at best there. I don't know what you expect to get out of Daniel Thomas. Maybe if you're assuming that Reggie misses the game. But either way, you don't expect great fantasy numbers from Daniel Thomas. To start him over McGahee, who was also questionable coming in, obviously it's easy to look back in retrospect and say that was a bad call.
Yeah, but that's 16-point losses. It didn't cost him the game because Jared wasn't much of a threat this week, but it could have.
Yeah, and I think this isn't really a pickup, but as far as the What Were You Thinking call, I'm going to save that for Fish later on with Michael Turner. But he chose to play him over Michael Bush, that is. I can understand Michael Bush being a red zone threat, but Mike Turner against that Panthers D, who obviously just isn't ready to stop the run. What were you thinking? Let's go, Fish. All right, so let's get into the matchups. Shotgun and Doug. Again, I took it right. You took it wrong. Let's hear about it.
Well, we talked about the key players for this matchup last week, and really the big pickup of the week is going to be Kevin Kolb, and that's really why Shotgun won this match, to be honest with you. I mean, Alex Smith was flat, Kolb wasn't. 31 points is huge for Kolb. It was Miami, but still 31 points.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That is the pickup of the week this week in Kevin Kolb. He actually outscored Eli Manning, although Eli going against that Eagles D still had a good game, but he didn't beat Kevin Kolb. So, I mean, that tells you something about the kind of game that Kevin Kolb had. 324 yards with 3 touchdowns. He got picked twice, but pulled out the win there. Huge game from him. Also for Shotgun, Gronk finally came through in a big way. Put up 17 off 104 yards and a score. Although he did have a fumble. Still a big producer there coming out of the tight end hole.
Yeah, Gronk definitely helped him out. Doug's biggest downfall, I thought, was I think the average performance of Foster. I thought that Foster could do better than 10 points on Tennessee. I said during the key player talk that if he put up 20, that Doug had a legit shot of winning. Well, if he would have put up 20, Doug would have won.
Factually correct. Yeah, that's definitely a good point there, considering that he didn't really manage to outdo Peterson like we had originally called. And let's see, also for Shotgun is why he might have won this game, just incredible balance among his team this week. He got Jamal Charles in the lineup. He got 9 and 14 out of his running backs, 1 and 2. Only 2 out of his flex. Mikael LaShore just didn't have a great week. But then his wide receivers were solid with 11 and 16, and then Sidney Rice. What can you expect from Russell Wilson only putting up 4? But just overall, great balance from Shotgun, giving him a good week.
Yeah, exactly. My biggest thing for Shotgun winning this matchup, I thought, was the difference of running backs he put in the lineup compared to last week and the weeks before to this week. In week 3, he started Sean Green, Mark Ingram, and Trent Richardson. This week he started AP, Jamal Charles, and Mikael LaShore. Although Mikael LaShore didn't put up numbers this week, still a whole lot sexier lineup than the past 3 weeks.
Yeah, definitely a good point there. He's got some good talent in the running back holes right now. Although at flex, he might could have had a slightly better option. Granted, you didn't expect the kind of game you did from Anquan Bolden, but maybe Richardson over LaShore could have been thought about. But also Cutler threw a pretty nice game together for him on the bench.
Yeah.
But also just looking here, he still has Chris Johnson on the bench too. If that would have been that first breakout game for Johnson, no way of saying whether or not that was definitive for anything, but at least he finally got a good game together. So if he keeps that kind of streak going, Shotgun might be in the trade market selling a running back pretty soon.
He's got a good stable of running backs just sitting on the bench. Trent Richardson, he's a rookie. He's a good running back. He doesn't play for a great team, but he's got plenty of upside to him. And we all know what Chris Johnson can do. And, of course, he's got Ben Tate sitting there. If anything happens to Foster, that's going to be a good guy to have.
Oh, he's definitely one of the top handcuffs in the game. All right, so let's move it on to Chase and Jared. This one went a lot like we expected, I do believe. Pretty big one for Chase here, 154 to 119. What do you think?
Yeah, I said last week that Shady McCoy was going to have to be big. He was big, but not big enough. Only scored 9 points. His biggest problem is he couldn't score. He couldn't put the ball in the end zone. Plenty of stats for him. Ran pretty well, but just couldn't punch it in.
Yeah, Shady had a big game rushing. The Eagles looked pretty good on the ground, especially late. But like you say, the problem was getting in close. They didn't manage to seal the deal. Ended up doing a lot more kicking than they should have, and didn't come away with the touchdowns like they would like to have. But Chase's QB play was fantastic. Getting 35 and 38 from Manning and Ryan, respectively. You can't really ask for anything better than that.
No, the QB play is what's really carried Chase to his 4-0 start. If you look at the top, I went and looked at the top 3 QB sets in our league. And if you go by fantasy points, Marshall is ranked number 1 with Breeze and RG3. Chase is right behind him with Manning and Ryan, and myself with Rodgers and Andy Dalton. Those quarterbacks putting up big points really makes it hard to beat any of 3 of those teams.
Yeah, it definitely does. That's a really good point. But I will say this, too, about Chase. He's definitely beatable. If you look at his scoring, you'll see his quarterbacks put up good numbers. Marcus Colston had an unbelievable game, and the Texans' D had a great game. Aside from that, 7, 0, 6, 5, 0, 6, 8 from his other players. That is a team that has lots of holes and is definitely beatable.
Yes, absolutely. I said Marcus Colston was actually my key player for Chase. 9 catches, 153 yards, and a touch. That's not really the reason he won, but definitely the reason that he won so handily.
Yeah, it definitely helped. Yeah, I guess you expected a shootout there between Green Bay and New Orleans, and that's definitely what you got. Looking at Jared, pretty steady scoring. Like, not a bad week for him. He just didn't have that key player that really just put him over the top.
Yeah, 21 points. That's all he could get, and that was just by the Bears' defense over a horrific Dallas team last night. I mean, his quarterback he's not in a great position with his quarterbacks. I mean, Vic could go off any week. You know, Schaub the same way, but as far as a consistency factor, it's not there. Jared's struggling this year. I mean, he doesn't have much to go to on the bench. Maybe he can turn it around later in the year.
Yeah, starting Jaquiz Rodgers at flex, normally not a great sign. So it looks like that could be a team in need of some moves.
Absolutely.
And that sends us over to me and Anderson. Pretty good matchup this week. Yeah, Jason had some bye week troubles, needless to say. His wide receiver and running back play didn't look great for him, and he ended up getting shut down pretty well, 122 to 76. What's your take on that one?
Well, like you said, the bye week is really what killed Anderson. I mean, both his top 2 quarterbacks, you know, were sitting at home this weekend. He didn't play the right tight end again this week. Another goose egg with Dennis Pitta, where Dennis Pitta was on the bench last week while Jason Witten put up a goose egg. My advice to Anderson is to pick out who you think is going to do best at tight end and go with the other guy.
Definitely a safer play than what he's done the last 2 weeks. Witten with a huge game, a drunk touchdown late, but still a great game. A game where they were forced to try and move the ball with Romo, who had a terrible, terrible game. Let's see. Also, from Dizzle, just like you got 16 and 11 out of your QB, so it's not like you didn't get production, but the rest of your team 7, 4, 3, 3, 2, 0, 5, 3, just no production there at all. And for myself, I got a lot of help from Cam Newton this week, who had a really nice game against Atlanta. Not that anyone really saw that coming. Put up 86 yards rushing with a score, another 215 through the air, and 2 scores that way. Aside from that, I had some decent help from Matthew Stafford, who ended up having a decent game, as well as my kicker and the Patriots defense. But I got nothing, or not nothing, but from Ryan Williams, Doug Martin, and Jeremy Maclin, I got a total of 2 points between those 3 players.
Yeah, I'm pretty disappointed with Ryan Williams so far. Doug Martin, you kind of expect it. You know, he's a rookie. I mean, it's going to take a little time. I thought he could do a little bit better against the Washington defense.
Yeah, that's a depleted front for the Skins. You would think that he would have a pretty good game. And it's not like Freeman's numbers were high either. So just they didn't move the ball really well.
No, they definitely didn't in the first half. And the second half of the game turned out to be a shootout through the air. So that kind of limited his ability to score there.
And then Williams, playing against the Dolphins defense, they've actually been pretty good against the run this year. So maybe they're just a little underrated. Williams only got 13 carries and 26 yards. I don't think this is a reason to sell on Williams. I think he's still going to have a pretty good year so long as Beanie Wells is out of the picture. Yeah. So I'm going to be sticking with him for now. But if that continues for me and I get no points or 2 points out of 3 players, that's going to spell a loss every week.
Yeah, Williams, if that Arizona team can get a lead, that defense can hold it. That the problem is getting out front, and if that can happen, then they can just let Williams pound the ball to the clock ticks 0.
Till the clock ticks 0. That's factually correct. So now we move on to you and Josh. I guess I'll let you take the lead on this one.
A huge week for me. Never. I mean, I saw a good week coming. Just my matchups looked really good this week, but never saw 175 points, and that's 175 points with a goose egg down there. So,
yeah, a Martellus Bennett goose egg, which was completely unexpected. I mean, the Philadelphia defense is pretty good, but only 1 catch for that entire game.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not going to. I'm not selling Bennett by no means. That's just one of those games where he just. I don't think he's really in the game plan, but that's not going to say it's going to continue that way. I mean, he's had a touchdown in every other game this year. So,
yeah, and as for Josh, great play from Brady. But again, some gaping holes. 2 goose eggs from Dexter McCluster and Cecil Shorts. You have to wonder why Cecil Shorts gets the start here at flex.
But who does he go with? Honestly.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at his bench, Randall Cobb, I think I would have rather taken him at flex just from the upside.
But you're looking at a number 4 receiver with Cobb. Yeah, you have a chance at maybe a kick return touchdown, but 7 points, you might get that in the New Orleans game, but don't look for very many points after that.
Yeah, that's true, but like you say, it is the matchup play, and you kind of expect a shootout here. And he got 7 catches. It's not like he only got like 1 big catch. So, I mean, he's getting the targets. So long as he's on the field, he's fast. I think he's going to get some looks from Rodgers.
Yeah, but do you start Cobb and Nelson on the same lineup?
It's a tough point. Yeah. Jordy had a good game, though.
Absolutely.
Given that. But yeah, Cecil Shorts, maybe there's something on the wire, although there's not much there. Let's see. So then, but yeah, yourself, you were incredibly balanced. You had some really good production out of Roddy White, who had a great game.
Amazing game.
Aaron Rodgers finally stepped up and put something on the board for you.
Yeah, I mean, everybody saw that coming, honestly. You know, a very, very weak New Orleans defense. Rodgers and Breeze were expected to put up big points, and they both did. We talked about as far as the key players that Brady and Rodgers, were the matchup to watch, and I think you hit the nail on the head. It really wasn't going to make a difference because both of them were going to throw up big numbers, and it was only a 3-point difference between the two of them.
Yeah, definitely a good point there. And that brings us to our final matchup between Fish and Marshall, who we projected to be the matchup of the week, and it gave us quite a show. Ended up with a 1-point differential, with Marshall getting the edge, 123 to 122 over Fish. For me, I think for Marshall, his QB play was huge. Drew Brees, obviously, with a big day, and then RG3 getting it done on the ground again, putting up 24 total. Aside from that, Julio Jones did nothing. I mean, you wouldn't expect one reception for 30 yards from him in a game where Matt Ryan played well. Roddy White had a huge game. It's almost like you kind of have to pick one. It's either Jones or White, but normally not to this extreme.
No, not at all. I mean, everybody, like I said with Rodgers, everybody saw the Drew Brees big points coming. I honestly thought RG3 would do a little bit better against Tampa Bay. But, I mean, 24 points isn't nothing to sneeze at. And I was MJD was my key player for him, and he was pretty slouch. I mean, just 13 carries, 38 yards, not a whole lot going on. His only way he got points was he had 42 yards receiving. Didn't expect Julio Jones to only have one catch either. But, I mean, Dan Bailey pulled it off for him last night. A win's a win.
Hey, he only got 4 points out of a kicker, but that turns out to be all he needed.
That's right.
And now looking at Fish, got some huge holes in his lineup too. Again, playing Michael Bush over Michael Turner. Questionable call. At least I can see the logic, but the Dallas D, pretty solid against Turner and the Panthers. The Panthers couldn't stop Andre Brown last week. You would think that Turner would be looking to have that same kind of game, which of course he ended up doing. But again, a questionable play there. But aside from that, Calvin Johnson only got 6 points for Fish.
Yeah, that was both of our key players for Fish. I picked Calvin Johnson and A.J. Green. They needed to have big days. And if Calvin Johnson would have, scored more than 6 points, he would have had to win. Nobody saw 6 points coming against Minnesota.
No, definitely not. Although at the time, Stafford was still questionable, and Sean Hill was actually projected to get the start. And I remember saying when I took Calvin Johnson that Sean Hill wouldn't know where else to go with the ball. He was just going to lean on Calvin Johnson all game. So that changed the game plan a lot when Stafford came in. You actually get a capable quarterback who can read through progressions instead of Sean Hill, who just goes to the tall guy who wants the ball.
Exactly.
Flacco had another good game. But, so a good game for both of them. And it's tough to have a game come down to the wire like this, especially between two undefeated teams. But although at the same time, we both missed this game. We both took Fish pretty handily at that. We all thought it was going to be bad matchups for Marshall. But it turns out that Fishes weren't really that much better.
No, not at all. Marshall pulled one out, stat adjustment pending there. You never know. 1 point is not out of the question. As far as I know, they haven't made any stat adjustments yet. So we'll keep an eye on it. But for now, he's got the W.
Yeah, it looks like that's the way it's going to stay for now. And so that leads us into what's going on right now, and that's a little trade talk going between Doug and Chase. As it stands, this hasn't been accepted yet, but at least it's proposed. Doug would get McGahee, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Nate Burleson, and Chase would get Alex Smith, the law firm.
Yeah.
So make your opinion out there. Once it's accepted, that is, get out there and vote. Let us know what you think if you have a problem with it. What do you think of that trade, Steven? You okay with that?
Yeah, I'm cool with it. Both guys obviously are trying to fix some holes in their lineup, so more power to them. I'm not going to tell either one of them what to do. But if they want to get that trade, go ahead and get it accepted so we can move on.
Yeah, this time of the year in this kind of league, this is all you can do. If you're ready to make changes, you have to go out and make trades because there's nothing left on the wire.
Yeah.
But yeah, kudos to you both. Good luck in your trade. And that does bring us to the wire. I don't know if you have anything going on. I don't think there's a lot left to grab. I don't think it's going to be an incredibly busy week for the waiver wire, although with bye weeks ongoing, we're making moves.
Yeah, you might see a few, defense, special team moves, kickers, things like that with bye weeks coming up. But as far as your skill players, unless you just have a big bye week hole, you're not going to make a lot of progress by picking somebody up off the wire.
All right, but we'll be back tomorrow, and we'll be discussing the Week 5 projections as well as what does happen with.
All right, and that'll do it. See y'all tomorrow.
And what goes down the waiver wire. Peace out.